Tsibs interviews back on the air. Hi, everyone. Tsibs with you on a Thursday evening before Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, which is a lot more interesting than your silly Victorian Day. I'm going to get crap for that. With me, as promised, it is JCLAUS33 joining us today, and thanks for being on the show today. I appreciate you taking some time out and talking with me.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. It's a cool little show segment that you have going on. I was glad that you reached out to me to be a part of it.
So, obviously, you guys are hitting on all cylinders at this point. First of all, before I get into giving you questions, and hopefully this isn't embarrassing to you, but just want to read off some facts to everybody here. Now, you've had at least 1 point in every game this season. Only one game without a goal versus the Rampage. And against Mooner, who I believe is their goaltender, that's not something to be upset about. You've won every game you've played in, double digits in points on 3 different occasions, 11 points twice, double digits in points 3 out of the 4 weeks, 12 power play goals, 7 shorthanded goals, a plus-minus of 50. That's a plus 50, in case you were wondering. And of course, the biggest fact that I found that I really do like is that we don't have to play you anymore this year. The Bears do not have to see your Rockford team and your offensive game. So that's just some background as to what JCLAUS has done so far this year. So let's get right to it. Before this is your first season in LG, correct? Yeah, this is my first year. Now, before that, where were you playing? Were you doing anything like this on any of the other sites, or is this the first time you ventured into this this kind of league gaming online thing? Yeah, this is actually my first time in any league format. So me and a bunch of guys that are on my team now, we are all predominantly HUT players, and we found out about the website through LGUHL. It got advertised somewhere else, and we all came over and tried it out, and then ended up playing Pro Series, did all right in that, and then decided to do the league. Thought it would be a fun way to mix it up because there's just not a lot of club games going on all the time anymore. So just something organized to kind of get everybody back interested in the game, to kind of spice it up a little bit, I would say. And that's kind of how we found out about LG. And this is my first time in any ESHL league, anything like that. So you guys are now, well, actually you personally, 4 weeks into the season, and the team as well. Mm-hmm. The Ice Hogs having a great year right now so far, obviously. And you and your line mates are a big part of that success of your team. Are you at all surprised at your team's success and your own success at this point? I wouldn't say I'm necessarily surprised. I know me personally, I have high expectations for myself, and I consider myself a pretty good player. So coming into this, our goal as a team, because like you mentioned, my line mates especially, a couple of us have played together for a while, and so our goal was coming into this was to finish top of the league and to win the league. That's our goal from the beginning. That's still our goal now. To have been as successful with it as we have been so far, I don't know if I expected to be undefeated still 4 weeks in, but I definitely knew that with the people that I was playing with myself, I knew we were capable of being a top-end team in this league. Right. So, you mentioned how you guys have played so well together as a group. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your team chemistry on Rockford and how you're managing all of this. For a while, you've been playing now with Rennie and Kraz as your line mates. How important is it to you to have the same guys play as a unit every game? I know that on the Bears, I know Maranaconda and Vihai that's the goal, to try and have the same guys playing, same lines, same days, so that there is a routine. You get to know these guys. Is that something of importance to you as well, or is it a mix for you? I would say
going into the season, we were definitely planning on running a set 3 lines, and so far, we've tried to stick to that. I talked to Kraz about this a lot, about what kind of combinations we should come up with if something's not working. So like our first line or I wouldn't say our first line, but one of our lines has been me, Kraz, and NRainy, and we've been set at that since like the beginning of week 2.
Right.
Rhino and Blues are brothers, so they play together pretty much all the time. They're in sync with each other, and they know what's going on, so I kind of let them do their thing. Our third line has kind of been a mixed bag where we're still trying to find the right pieces, and it's just been a kind of a carousel of guys at this point. But I would say in order to have like long-term team success, it's definitely important to run guys that have chemistry together, because if you don't know what the other guy on the ice is doing, the game goes by too fast to really call out everything that you're planning on doing. So I would say chemistry is massive. So we definitely try and stick to the same lines when possible.
So you said Rhino and Blues are brothers? I didn't realize that. So yeah. I have a ton of respect and sympathy for Blues at this point. But seriously, and you mentioned that those guys are playing. I think maybe that's why Rhino gives you a lot of crap on the chat box, because they're playing incredibly well too. And I mean, for you guys to have 2 solid forward lines like that, I mean, you don't see that a lot in this game. You see some good teams who have a good level of expertise everywhere, but you guys have like, your second line could be a top line pretty much anywhere else. Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's definitely made my life easier to, as a GM, not speaking on like personally, but as a GM, to know that I can throw those guys out there against any team and get at least a point in every single game. And that really makes my life very easy when they're able to go out and perform and do that consistently. And then I can take care of my business when I play my games. I can count on myself to get 2 points every game.
Right. So you're playing, you're a GM, and I know you've talked about this a little bit about, getting involved as a GM and wanting to, wanting to run a team and maybe also try and kind of mentor guys a little bit. Do you find it difficult to do the GM duties and still be able to find focus when it comes to game night?
I would say I have a tougher time with being a GM when I'm not playing that day, because it's always, you're never 100% on like your lineup for that day, or making sure that everybody's there for the game, or just whatever you have to do that day. Mm-hmm. When I'm playing and I've scheduled myself to play, I know that I'm going to be there, so I don't have to worry about myself. It's a lot more stressful, I would say, when I'm not playing and I have to count on people that I'm not talking to all the time. So if we're calling up a guy for training camp, to give him a look for a game, to make sure that he's going to be there, or just something like that. Mm-hmm. I would say, like, since I've been with guys that I knew before, I probably have had it easier than some other GMs, but if I were to do it again next year, I probably would not be a GM again, because it's a lot more work than I expected it to be.
Yeah. I think anyone who's ever done something like this, or if you've coached, a baseball team or a softball team or something like that, or a hockey league on your own, it really is tough to be able to concentrate on all those details and then, go out there and play. It's tough to make that transition sometimes, and it's a lot, it's a lot of work, obviously. Mm-hmm. Let's you're the GM. Kraz is the AGM on this team. What do you lean on him for in that management position?
Well, Kraz and I have been like close friends for a while now, so we talk about a lot of other stuff outside of LG. But as my assistant GM, I would say that whenever there's guys on waivers, I talk to him about him if he thinks we should claim them. If we're talking about calling somebody up from the training camp roster, then I would be talking to him about who he thinks we should call up. I'll have him look through and see if there's guys like that. And then if I can't be around for game days, I'll make sure that he's got the roster or in the lineups set, and just he basically handles the secondary stuff. I try and take care of like the meat and potatoes of it all, but he definitely has been a big part of this team. And I know that he's listening, so he'd have given me a hard time if I didn't have something good to say about him.
Yeah, I know. Well, obviously, look, I think any help you get is showing up in how this team is playing at this time. Besides the things that you mentioned, are there any other little intangibles that he provides that have contributed to the success of this team? Is there anything specific that he's doing above and beyond that you would want to call out?
Well, I would say to start with, he's a phenomenal player.
Mm-hmm.
So playing on a line with him, I know people have given me a lot of credit this year because I have a pretty big lead in the points department.
Uh-huh.
But he there's a lot of games where he's a better player than I am in that game, and he's just played a couple games less than me. I'm sure soon you'll see the gap between him and me close because he's just an outstanding player. So on the ice, he makes my job a lot easier because it's not me trying to carry an offense if I can run it through him or run it through NRainy on the other side. Both of them are great players. But I would say off the ice, sometimes I get like, I guess, demanding with my guys. I just like to make sure that people are there. I don't know. It's kind of stressful sometimes being a GM, and he's just he's like a little bit lighter personality than me. So he, I guess he can talk someone down if they get annoyed, or he just knows how to handle people sometimes better than I can. And so it's good having that, and it's also good just having a good friend be your assistant GM. And I think helping guys on the team that we didn't know before become like friends with each other makes playing together a lot easier.
Sure, absolutely. So if you're going to rate yourself, assess the job you've done so far as a GM, I mean, how do you think you've done to this point? What things would you do anything differently? Do you feel like you've approached it the right way?
As a GM, I would say I can't really complain about how our team is doing. Obviously we're at the top of the league right now, so I can't say I have too many complaints about my team. Excuse me. But for me personally, if I would do something different looking back right now, obviously there's trades made that you look back in hindsight and you would say maybe I wouldn't have made that, or there's guys that you saw go in bidding for like $500K, and now you look back and you say, I had a good feeling about this guy. Why didn't I say put a bid on him? But I would say as a GM, I would say I'm pretty happy with how I've done before. I haven't gotten like many complaints from my players, and I don't know. I think we just have a good situation in Rockford right now, so I'm pretty much very pleased with how everything is going.
Now, again, first time as a GM, the AHL bidding process.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? First time having to deal with that. What did you like about it? Is there anything you'd want to change?
I would say I was a little bit overwhelmed when it first started because I think I was one of the last GMs to sign on. Scoots, who's the owner of the Blackhawks, asked me, I think maybe 2 or 3 days before bidding started. So I took over the GM spot and just scoured the list for guys that I recognized or names that any of my buddies recognized, good players, just looked at stats. And overall, I would say the bidding process went well. We got a lot of the guys that I wanted to get. And when I didn't know, so obviously, since this is my first time on LG, I didn't know everybody in the league. Scoots, my owner, has been on LG for a long time, so he knew a lot more names than I did. So if I didn't know who to bid on in a certain situation, if we had a position that we needed to fill that I didn't know any names at that position, then I told him to take a flyer, or if he recognized someone, for him to take it a shot at it. But we kind of worked together on that, so I won't take full credit for the bidding and building my team. Scoots definitely did a good amount of the work in bidding there. But when I first took over, it was definitely overwhelming. But the whole bidding process, I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the first time I've been part of it. I signed up late in season 1, so I never got a chance to be involved in that. But that certainly the anxiousness, I think, of my GM and I'm sure a lot of GMs, when you have a bid in and you're just waiting and waiting to see what happens, that has to be a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's especially for guys that I knew were good players, but people here didn't know them.
Right.
When their time was counting down, and you kind of see that like you're closing in on getting them, and we had a couple of those guys that got sniped at in the last few minutes, and it just makes you want to pull your hair out because you think you're about to get a good deal on somebody that you know is a good player, and then someone else swoops in last second and bids on them, and it's a lot of moving parts all at once that you have to try and deal with. And it's a lot of fun, but it's also pretty high stakes at the same time because it sets your team for most of the season.
Right. Let's talk now. Obviously, after you get done with that process, you've got your team, and obviously they've gelled well. Let's talk about a little more about, because you already have, your team makeup. And we said this already. It's not just about your first line. You've got a second line.
Yeah.
People know about your offense, but let's talk a little bit about the rest of the team. Let's talk about your defense, your goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
It just obviously you guys are getting a full team effort. And it's not just about putting the puck in the back of the net.
Yeah, of course. There's no way you can outscore people if you have defense that are turning the puck over every time down the ice. It was I have to give full credit to my defense. It's been a little bit tough because starting with our defense, we lost one of our top guys to the NHL this week, so we were kind of dealing with that. And at the beginning of the season, we picked up a guy that I thought would be able to help the team, and he got called up right away. So we've lost guys to the AHL. I'm sure all teams have had to deal with that, so I'm not going to pretend like we're special in that scenario. But it's a lot to balance because you can lose guys to the NHL at any given time, or you have to send guys to the CHL at any given time. But I have to say I'm really happy with our defense. We've tried to run 3 consistent pairs. It's changing all the time, but you can't score goals if you're not getting passes up from your defense. So that's where it all starts. And I know a lot of teams, or not a lot maybe, but some teams will struggle with their defense not even being able to get the puck out of their zone. That's a massive part of the game. And we have our whole defense, I would say our whole defensive core is very good at moving the puck. And I tried to gather good Hut players on defense because I know that carrying the puck is obviously a big part of Hut. So I tried to get guys who I knew were good at Hut on defense. So OSU Bucks 84, I took a chance on him because I played him in Hut 2 years ago, and I played good games against him all the time. So I recognized the name, and I took a chance on him, and I think he's over like 1.5 a game, 2 points a game, and he's got a great record. We've got It's a Purple Dragon who was on the Ice Hogs last year that I did not know, but Scoots knew. And we picked him up, and him and OSU have been a pair all season, and they've been great together. Then Goose Chuck was playing with Local, who got called up this week, but Goose Chuck's been arguably our best defenseman defensive-wise. He doesn't have the same stats as other guys on our team have, but he's been the best lockdown defenseman for us at this point in time. And then Sond and Vikes have played together on the our third pair of, I guess, if you want to put numbers on it. And Sond and Vikes before today were both undefeated. So I really can't ask for much more of our defensemen. They're getting the job done every single game. They go out and they make stuff happen and get the pucks to our forwards who are scoring goals. So defense has been a huge part of it. And I know Sond will give me a hard time if I don't mention it. So he's our last undefeated defenseman, and he's gonna want the glory for that one. So Sond is our last undefeated defenseman, and he's been very good as well.
Now you just talked about the entire defensive core, but the other part of it too is your goaltender, No Guts, No Glory, who came over after week 1. He had not won a game in week 1, came over to you guys, and has gone 15-2 since then. How much?
Yeah.
How much? Has that made a big difference on your team?
It's been, I would say, massive, because when obviously he was 0-4 with like a 5.5 goals against average with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins before he got traded to us,
right.
And after week 1, we lost our starting goaltender to the NHL. We lost our second goaltender, who quit the league. So we were scrambling to find goaltending help, and we still don't even have a true second goalie on our roster right now. But
right.
No Guts has stepped in, and you can't really ask for anything more. He's gone 15-2. There's not much else I can say. I'd say that he's a pretty big talker. He likes to talk a lot. And maybe we can work on that a little bit, but just for in net, he's been great. I really can't ask for somebody to do much more than he has since he came to our team.
Considering your record at this point, and I know this is a bit of a loaded question because you guys are doing so well, but how much better can this team actually get at this point? What do you think you guys need to work on that could get you even further?
Okay. Well, I think we have I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but our third line has struggled a little bit. We've had a lot of moving parts. We've had guys get called up. We've had guys underperform and had to get sent down. We've traded for guys. So our first and second lines have been set pretty much all season. And before today, both of them were undefeated. So obviously I wasn't going to change that. Our third line has struggled a little bit. And so we're still trying to find the parts for the third line to win games consistently. And I think that's probably our biggest issue at the moment, is finding guys who can play and win games consistently for our third line. That's honestly, if I were going to point to a weakness or a flaw or something that needs improvement on our team, that's probably about the only thing I would say is our third forward line just needs some help figuring out how to win games more consistently. But that's not to say they've been bad. I think our third line is like 8-4 or 9-5, something like that. It's right. Like they have a solid record, but I don't know, when you see other lines doing even better, you want to figure out how you can get that last line to get up to the performance of the other two.
Okay, so let's move on to a couple of teams in who are on your heels in the Western Central. Chicago Wolves being led by their GM Vibes Digital, and JLM 1410 is their assistant GM. They've got a solid goaltender in Navzi, who obviously is just playing well week after week. They're getting offensive contribution across the board, keeping pace with you guys at this point.
I know.
What kind of what are your impressions so far after playing these guys?
It's well, I'm not going to discredit them. We played them twice with our top line and kind of steamrolled them. But that being said, they're obviously a very good team to have 54 points. We only have, we have 59, so they're right behind us. And I talk to their GM and assistant GM pretty much every day and joke around in the general manager's chat or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And they're both really nice guys. I have nothing bad to say about them. It's crazy that they've kept so close to us, because I feel like we've been rolling pretty much every week. I think we had our worst week this week, right. And we went like 6-2-1. I think we went this week. And to see what the Wolves are doing to keep pace with us, and not only keep pace with us, but be right there with us, it's a little bit frustrating, because I feel like we've played so well. We should have more of a cushion between us and the next team, but I definitely tip my cap to them, because they've been outstanding as well, and they have some very good forwards. I know JLM is, I think, in the top 5 in points, so his line has been killing it, and I have nothing but good things to say about them. They're definitely a really solid team.
another team who you might be a little pained to talk about, specifically because your guys lost to them tonight, is the Lake Erie Monsters. Devil's Pride doing a good job over there with Curlew as the management team. You guys are now 1-2 against them.
I know.
Of late, they seem to be in every game they play, and I think at times they have those games where you look at them and say, okay, how could they be this close? But, I've watched plenty of games with them where, they have absolutely taken control of a game, and I think they're sneaky good. And again, how do you see them in the long run of this season?
Well, I would say that I was surprised watching tonight. They were the first team to knock off our second line, so I was surprised. But hats off to them. And also, just looking, the first time we played them, we beat them pretty handily, I think. And so they were struggling out of the gate a little bit, and we came back and played them, I think, in week 2, and I threw out our third line against them because they didn't have the greatest record, and I was pretty confident in our guys to get a win, and they beat us. So I was a little bit surprised, but I guess I underestimated them at first. But the last 2 weeks, they've just turned it on, and even though their goal differential, I'm just looking at it now, they're only a +4 in goal differential, but for whatever reason, they're able to win all these close games, and they put those early season blowouts behind them where they were getting smacked. They had that happen a couple of times, and since week 3, so the past 2 weeks, I would say they've been in every game, and not just in every game, but winning most of their games. And hats off to them. They're the first team to beat our second line.
Hey, I want to circle back a bit just to talk a little bit about you talked about Scoot and about the NHL team that you affiliate that you work with. Talk to me a little bit more about what kind of help Scoot's been giving you and how you guys work together as an organization.
I would say that he gave me a lot of tips early on both what he was wanting from us, or what to expect from him in terms of calling up and trading and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And also he kind of gave me pointers on how I should go about running a good team, because obviously he ran the Blackhawks last season and they won the President's Trophy. They were the top team in the league in the NHL last year. So I figured he knew what he was talking about. And we still talk. We talk basically every day, whether it's about trades or call-ups or setting lines or just stuff like that. We basically talk every day, and he's definitely been pretty helpful for me.
Right.
At the same time, like day-to-day running the team, I basically make all the decisions with the AHL team, mm-hmm. and I have free reign over trading for or calling up or sending down or whatever. I can do as I please with that. But he's been very helpful. I would say he's been a good owner in that he hasn't been too controlling. And I know some other GMs have had issues with their owners where they can't do anything without their owner's approval, or they can't do anything at all unless their owner's the one making the trades for them. And I haven't had to deal with that. And I would say it's made building the team how we want to build it a lot easier. And because of that, so far it's paid off, and we're doing pretty solid.
We on our chat box on YouTube, we have a question from JTFred. He said if you would like to play in the NHL, and if so, what team you'd want to play with. I can't imagine maybe you've seen enough of the teams in the NHL, but is getting up to the NHL a goal at all for you at some point down the road or next season?
Yeah, absolutely. When we first, me and my buddies, we have a few of them on Rockford and a few of them on Rochester. Our club is kind of split on those two teams, and we all signed up together to play in the NHL this season and try and get together, since we knew a lot of people wouldn't know us, since none of us had played leagues before.
Mm-hmm.
But when we signed up a little bit after that, we found out that we weren't going to be able to play in the NHL. And so some of them were considering not playing, whatever. We decided instead, I decided to take a GM spot and just try and get everybody on the AHL and just have some fun in the AHL this year and try and compete and do well as a team,
Mm-hmm.
and just see how it went. And
Right.
So I would say, yes, I'm definitely looking forward to playing in the NHL as soon as I can. I'm guessing that will be at the start of next season, but I'm not going to make any assumptions. And as for picking a team, I feel like it would be wrong to not pick the team that I'm under right now. So I guess Chicago would be a good team to pick, but I know that Edmonton in the NHL has been doing, I think they only have like 1 or 2 points less than us in the NHL. So they've been dominating the NHL. So I feel like that would be a good team to go to, help out a team that's already high up. Or I would say a couple of us have talked about if we could all join Arizona and see how we would fare in the NHL together. That would be fun.
Sure. Another user, and I wonder if this is Rhino at all, is SaltyBoxGaming. He's asking, how do you like playing with Rhino? I know you did early in the season. You're really not on the same line now, but
yeah. I would. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, with with that time that you spent with him and knowing what he's done with the other line, what is it like playing on the same line with him?
Well, I know that a lot of people have their opinions on Rhino because he's been a very active participant in the shout box, and I try and keep him toned down a little bit because I've played with Rhino. We've played together since NHL 13. I think we've played club together since then, and he's kind of a loudmouth sometimes, and he likes to talk other people up, but at the same time, he's a really fun guy to play with, and he's a really funny person, and I would say he definitely makes me better as a player, and I make him better as a player. We complement each other well, and I think he's second or third in the league in points too, so that's been a part for me. I know a lot of people have kind of tried to detract from him, saying that he's riding my coattails or whatever, but he's playing his own game, and he's putting up points at a higher rate than almost anyone else in the league is. And so when I do get to play with him, I'm always really excited because he's a good complementary player, because Kraz and I like to kind of dipsy doodle, and me especially, I like to sometimes try and walk through the whole team, and Rhino's more of like a straight to the net, kind of like a power forward kind of guy. And he's just a good compliment. He's a fun player to play with. He's a funny guy. I know he stirs some people the wrong way sometimes, but he's a fun guy to play with.
Yeah. There's another person on the chat box by the name of NRainy.
Oh my gosh!
He wants me to ask you how you've dealt with trying how to learn how to pass.
Okay, well, so that's obviously coming from one of my line mates.
Yeah.
And they always give me a hard time because they say I don't pass enough because I put up more goals than assists, and almost nobody else does that. But I'd say that I do get a little bit of a case of trying to walk through the whole team. Like I just said, I do that occasionally from time to time, where I get carried away and try to do it all myself. But
well, by the way, you and half the league, so you're not alone. Trust me.
Yeah. As
a goaltender, I watch that happen constantly, and it's quite amazing. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I would say, his question's not 100% serious. He's just giving me a hard time. But I would say it's easy to pass when he's open all the time. It's easy to pass when Kraz is open all the time. So just trying to find them and just try and get out of the mentality where I have to do things by myself.
Right.
I know I'm not the only person that has that. I've just been a little bit more successful than some other people have been at it. So when you're having success with something, sometimes it's hard to get out of the mindset of to continue doing what's working, even if it's not the best team style. So I'm trying game by game to make sure that I am always getting everybody involved instead of trying to do stuff by myself.
All right. All right. Well, enough of the peanut gallery. I think what we need to do is wrap this one up. One last thing I wanted to ask you is, again, your first season in LG. What would you tell anyone who's in their first season on League Gaming in terms of how they should approach playing in an organized league, or anybody who wants to sign up next season? What approach should they take if they want to be part of League Gaming?
I would say for people who are new and don't know anybody, you need to start making friends because, well, not necessarily, but a lot of people get on teams just for knowing people. So I would say get your name out there. If you see drop-in games or scouting games or whatever, go out and participate in those, because I ran those before bidding in the short period of time before that, and we got a couple people from that just from playing scout games and seeing what people could do. And I would say for people coming into a league new that have been looking for a way to spice up club or for a way to get into an organized setting, you really can't beat this. I've had a blast playing so far, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. It's been a really fun season. I would say if you think you're ready to manage a team and build a team and you want to be a GM, then I would say by all means go for it, because there's going to be spots open as guys move on to the NHL or as guys decide they don't want to be a GM anymore. But it's a lot of work. So if you're planning on being a GM, just know that it takes a lot of time. And for LG in general, I would say just be active and be involved and find games and get your name out there, be a participant in the shout box, and just get involved as much as you can. Make it an immersive thing for you. And I would just say embrace the league in whole.
Well, listen, JCLAUS, again, thanks for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. I wish you luck, although I don't think you need it from me or anybody else at this point. And listen, best of luck for the rest of the season for you and your team.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate you reaching out, and I'm sure if you're looking for guests, my teammates would love to talk to you.
Well, like you said, Rhino has actually proposed that you and him do a show together, which I'm assuming you would object to. But it would just be him bashing me for half an hour, so I'm probably not going to happen. Yeah, exactly. All right, listen, dude. Thanks. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
That's JCLAUS33 from the Rockford Ice Hogs, and that is our show for tonight. Tsibs interviews. And we will be with you a couple of weeks down the road. I think we have Vibes Digital coming up as well. So a couple more shows, and we'll keep this going for the whole season. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you soon.